Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, fantasy author Mehdi Fakhramand. Mehdi Fakhramand is an independent fantasy writer who is deeply passionate about creating intricately immersive worlds through the art of writing. Mehdi is the author of Child of a Mountain, Sword of Nightmare, and Sword of Nightmare Ghosts of Sinka. Mehdi's dedication to crafting captivating narratives knows no bounds as he consistently strives to transport readers to realms of wonder and excitement through his words. So, today I want to first start off by discussing how to build a fantasy world. So, let's talk a little bit about setting and world building. How can a fantasy author blend, say, Irish mythology and historical fiction to create a compelling setting for the book?
Uh, it's like when you're doing that, like basically when you're creating this world, there's a lot of like research that goes into it, even though it's like fake. Uh, there's still that element of like realism that you have to mix in.
Right.
For example, like in my sort of nightmare book, there's a chapter where I talk about like blacksmithing, and it's one thing like you're just writing about it, but you want to actually get it right, like the feelings that go into it.
Mm,
So I actually built a forge in my backyard and watched a ton of like videos of like that Forge and Fire TV show.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I watched a lot of those and went out there and actually like was hammering away at random metal to make a sword. It didn't work out very great, but it gave me a really good feeling of like what went into it. And I got to quench the blade in the water, so that helped me write that scene. So just blending things together like that, getting your hands into it, like really helps.
Yeah, I can see that. And on the topic of themes and tone, what themes did you explore with your dark fantasy setting, such as like did you do hysteria, curses, enchantments, or anything like that?
Um, well, in the Child of the Mountain book that I wrote, which is I don't know if you remember like the Choose Your Own Adventure books back in the day.
Hmm.
Uh, that's basically what I did. Like it's like an interactive book. So I did explore witch hysteria, uh, that theme that you mentioned, and that's actually really heavy on about half of the book.
Okay.
And it's always interested me just for how people were really afraid of witches back in that time, the colonial times, and they're just ready to like burn anyone alive
Right.
at any moment.
Right.
um, so you get to dive into that part of the world like in the book, and I did a lot of research on that too. I even like so much as like like there was a reverend. I had to get his whole like demeanor and his personality right. So um I even like went and read old letters from the reverends at the time, like speaking out on that, like just to get their kind of like their feelings down. Not
Wow.
copying them, but just their intensity, I suppose.
And on the topic of just the plot and the structure, are there any mechanisms that you would recommend that authors could use to, say, handle complexities of something like a time loop or an alternate timeline?
Yeah, and once again, there's a time loop in this book too.
Hmm.
So funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So handling time loops and looping things back around, like I mean, I felt like when I finished it, it was like a work of art. Like I had a masterpiece on my hands. Like I feel like there was no plot holes. So I
Mm,
definitely challenge anyone to find one. But when I was writing it down, I just kept track of everything with an outline, just good old pen and paper.
hmm.
That way you can draw like little arrows everywhere and just really keep track of everything that's happening. Cross off this happened, and then just read back through things to make sure like it sounds right. Um,
I like that. The timeline is probably very important, or else you're going to confuse yourself.
yes,
Got to stay in the
yes, and
story.
it's definitely interesting how you kind of weave everything together with time loops and stuff like that. But I don't know. I've always been interested in time travel anyway, just from like watching Back to the Future when I was a kid.
For the dark fantasy, what does a good protagonist, what are they motivated by, and how do their choices best reflect their motivations?
So once again, like in Child of a Mountain, uh,
Mhm.
when you read that book, you are the protagonist. So every choice, like, because it reads in a second person actually, so everything's
Mhm.
like instead of like he or she or I, it's like you. So like when you're making a choice, you get to decide, like for example, like what like basically it's subjective. Basically, it's just subjective, like whether or not you're going to do something good or you're going to do something bad.
And so, what moral dilemmas are the readers faced with?
Like one of the earliest things that you're faced with in there is you're witnessing a witch burning, and you obviously like when you're going back in time because your character's from your time period too.
Hmm.
Um, you as the reader and you in the book, you know that it's wrong. You're like, there's no witches. Like this is an innocent girl up there. But there's also a big giant crowd behind you cheering it on. Like, do you go against what
Mm,
they're doing, which would be morally right?
right.
But that's not going to end up well. But you could choose
Hmm.
the morally right situation or the morally gray. Like, do you just go along with the crowd?
And how would you say that curses and enchantments work in your novels within the story's rules of magic?
It's like I don't really have any hard and fast rules
Okay.
because I feel like once you start making like a lot of strict rules, like you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure some magic worlds do. Like, you start writing yourself into a hole, and you can even stop your creativity. So, I mean, especially if you're a beginning author, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
Do what you want, do what feels organic.
Right. And I imagine as your books come and the world builds a little more, especially if you're writing something like a trilogy, then you can, harden those, rules and the
Yeah.
world a little
And
more.
if you notice, like, even, I mean, basically everything that does have hard and fast rules, how many times do they break them?
Right.
You remember,
That's
like,
the fun part.
yeah, they're always like, you can never go there. If anyone goes there, they instantly die. Like, but then they don't.
Yeah. Because they go
So,
there in the story. And
yeah.
yeah.
And then you as a reader, you know that they're saying that, like, oh, but is it true? So I just
Yeah.
don't even like go that route. I don't know.
Right.
I try to be
Right.
different.
Right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Mehdi. That was great information on building a fantasy world.
Thank you.
Lastly, Mehdi, where can our listeners find and connect with you?
I'm kind of everywhere. Like I'm on Instagram. You can search my name on there. Um, I'm on Facebook. You can find me there. Uh, I even have a website, medifakramad.com. My link tree, which is just, link tree, like with the little slash and then my name, like medi.fakramad has all my links there. Even if you type me on Amazon, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty easy to find. The hard part is spelling my name right, of course.
Right. Well, great. Thank you. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's interview with fantasy author Mehdi Fakramad. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.